Have you ever thought about the invisible forces that influence the reality around us? What if I told you that there are universal laws, hidden and deliberately forgotten, that govern every aspect of our lives, and that this knowledge has been kept secret by elites throughout history? Today, we will explore the secrets of natural law and the principles that directly affect your existence. Esoteric knowledge has fascinated humanity since ancient times, always reserved for a select group. The term esoteric comes from the Greek esoterikos, meaning pertaining to the inner. This already reveals much about its true essence. It is deep, hidden knowledge, often inaccessible to the masses. Those who gain access to this knowledge develop the ability to see beyond the visible, understanding the invisible laws that govern the universe. But why has this knowledge been kept secret? Throughout centuries, from civilizations like ancient Egypt to the modern world, spiritual and political leaders realized that power is directly linked to knowledge. Whoever masters the wisdom about how the universe and the human mind function holds enormous control over those unaware of these laws. For this reason, elites throughout history have endeavored to protect and monopolize this esoteric knowledge. This secrecy wasn't maintained solely for control, but also out of responsibility. Esoteric knowledge, if misunderstood or used unethically, can be extremely dangerous. It's not just about manipulating the forces of nature, but understanding the consequences that each action can trigger in the cosmos. Thus, access to this knowledge is restricted to those deemed ready, people who have already embarked on a path of self-awareness and spiritual development. The hidden symbols and rituals observed in various traditions are not mere superstitions, but mechanisms that conceal and protect this knowledge. These rituals and symbols function as keys, understandable only to those who have developed the perception necessary to decipher them. Those who seek esoteric knowledge must be willing to question their perceptions of reality and abandon limiting beliefs. Interestingly, even with all efforts to protect this knowledge, it has never been completely inaccessible. Over time, ancient texts, oral traditions, and spiritual practices have always been available for those who sought them. However, few are willing to follow the arduous and transformative path that this knowledge demands. The search for esoteric wisdom requires courage, patience, and above all, a deep desire for inner transformation. It is essential to understand that this knowledge is not a magic formula to solve all of life's problems. It acts as a map, guiding us to understand the laws that govern the universe and our role within this grand scheme. True transformation occurs when we consciously apply this knowledge in our lives, ethically. And this is what differentiates those who merely possess knowledge from those who truly understand and live it. The theme of mass manipulation has been present throughout history. Governments, religions, and elites have always shared a common goal: maintaining control. This control is made possible through ignorance. Most people have no idea how hidden knowledge has been used to create a disparity of power, allowing a few to possess knowledge while the majority remains at the mercy of a limited reality. Esoteric knowledge can be compared to a powerful tool. In the hands of those who understand its depth, it can be an instrument of evolution and transformation. In the wrong hands, however, it can be used to oppress and manipulate. This knowledge allows for an understanding of how the human mind works, how it can be conditioned, and in extreme cases, controlled. That is why elites have always been interested in keeping this power secret, with no intention of sharing it. The media, formal education, and belief systems that permeate society are major allies in this manipulation process. They sell a limited version of reality that discourages the development of human potential and diverts people from a deeper quest for knowledge. Most people believe that the material world is all that exists, ignoring the fact that there are dimensions far beyond what the eyes can see. This materialistic view is one of the greatest traps, keeping the masses away from esoteric knowledge. The distractions of everyday life, such as empty entertainment, social media, and sensationalist news, are mechanisms used to prevent people from questioning the reality they live in. Meanwhile, esoteric knowledge remains restricted to a few, who use it to shape society according to their own interests. The lack of questioning and conformity are powerful weapons in the hands of manipulators. However, there is a way to break this cycle. The first step is becoming aware that we are being manipulated. The second is having the courage to question the information we receive and seek knowledge from alternative sources outside of traditional channels. Esoteric knowledge is not hidden, but it does require effort and dedication to be truly understood. For those who awaken to this reality, life begins to transform. When we understand how the human mind can be shaped, we can reprogram it. This not only frees us from the chains of manipulation, but also gives us the power to create the reality we desire. Hidden knowledge is the key to this liberation, but its application requires conscious and continuous effort. Natural law is one of the most fundamental pillars of esoteric knowledge, although few understand its true depth. When we talk about natural law, we are not referring to human laws, but to universal, eternal, and immutable laws that govern all of existence. These laws do not depend on our belief to exist. They are always in effect, whether we understand them or not. The law of attraction, widely known, is just a small part of natural law. Unfortunately, this concept has been simplified and misinterpreted by many New Age currents. The popular idea that it is enough to think positively to attract what you want is a superficial version. The true law of attraction goes far beyond that, requiring a deep understanding of the causes and effects that shape the universe. Everything we think, feel, and do generates a consequence, which returns to us in various forms, whether in experiences, situations, or relationships. Natural law teaches that we are co-creators of our reality, but it also reminds us that there are rules to be respected. We cannot simply wish for something and expect the universe to deliver it without effort and without alignment with these laws. Natural law demands responsibility. It calls us to be aware of our choices and their repercussions. Often, people get frustrated because they believe the universe is not responding to their desires. What they don't realize is that their actions and thoughts may be out of harmony with what they claim to want. Natural law operates with precision and impartiality, offering no shortcuts. This is why natural law has been hidden from so many people. Those who understand these laws can use them for their own benefit, or in the case of elites, to manipulate others. Those who ignore them are condemned to suffer the consequences of their own ignorance. Natural law is not punitive, but just. It simply reflects back what we emit to the universe. Understanding natural law is essential to living in harmony with the cosmos. When we understand how it works, we can align our thoughts, feelings, and actions in a coherent way. This allows us to create a reality closer to our desires, not through magic but through a conscious process of co-creation. The Hermetic principles are ancient teachings from Greek and Egyptian traditions, attributed to the master Hermes Trismegistus. These principles describe the fundamental laws that govern the universe, applicable in all dimensions of existence, from the material to the spiritual plane. They are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. The first principle, mentalism, states that the universe is a mental creation. Everything that exists is the result of a prior thought. This concept is central to understanding how our minds influence the reality around us. Our thoughts are the creative force behind everything we manifest in the physical world. The principle of correspondence teaches us that as above, so below, as below, so above. This reminds us that the macrocosm and the microcosm are interconnected, and the patterns that govern the universe are replicated on different scales. By understanding how a small part of the universe functions, we can understand the whole. The principle of vibration states that everything is in constant motion. Nothing remains static. From the smallest particle to the largest galaxies, everything vibrates at different frequencies. This principle reveals that what we perceive as solid matter is actually energy vibrating at various levels of density. Polarity is the principle that affirms that everything has its opposite, and that these opposites are, in fact, two extremes of the same reality. Hot and cold, light and darkness, good and evil, all are poles of a single truth, differing only in degree. By understanding polarity, we learn to balance opposites in our own lives. The principle of rhythm teaches that everything in the universe follows a cycle, a natural oscillation between extremes. Cause and effect states that every action generates a corresponding reaction. The principle of gender teaches that everything possesses a masculine and feminine aspect, two complementary forces that interact to create the totality of the universe. Mentalism, the first and most fundamental principle, teaches us that the universe is mental in its essence. Everything we see, feel, and experience is a manifestation of the mind. This means that our thoughts have the power to create reality. Every thought we have is like a seed planted in the soil of the universe. When our thoughts are positive and aligned with our higher intentions, we are planting seeds that will blossom into beneficial results. Conversely, negative thoughts bear the fruit of unpleasant consequences. However, mentalism goes beyond simple positive thinking. It invites us to become aware of how our minds are programmed. Often, our thoughts are rooted in fears, traumas, and limiting beliefs implanted from childhood. These unconscious thoughts continue to shape our reality, even if we are not aware of them. The key to mastering mentalism lies in consciously taking control of our thoughts and reprogramming them. This requires continuous self-observation and mental discipline. When we start identifying thoughts that no longer serve us, we can replace them with beliefs more aligned with the reality we want to manifest. The mind is an incredibly powerful tool, but we must learn to use it correctly. If we don't take control of our thoughts, we will be trapped in automatic mental patterns and external conditioning. The principle of mentalism teaches us to assume the role of co-creators of our reality, aligning our minds with the universal laws that govern the cosmos. Understanding mentalism is the first step in realizing that we are the architects of our own reality. From the moment we master this principle, we begin to see life from a new perspective, not as victims of circumstances, but as conscious creators of our destiny. True change begins within us, in our minds. The principle of polarity, in turn, teaches us that everything in life has an opposite. However, these opposites are not enemies. They are complementary aspects of the same reality. Light and darkness, good and evil, hot and cold, are all just extremes of a single truth, separated by degree. Understanding this principle is essential for finding balance and harmony in our lives. Life is full of challenges and apparent contradictions. Often we struggle to make sense of the polarities we encounter. However, the principle of polarity teaches us that these opposites are part of the same reality. We cannot truly appreciate light without knowing darkness, and we do not value peace without first experiencing conflict. This principle invites us to see life more holistically, where opposites complement each other and are necessary for our growth. Good does not exist without evil, and vice versa. This does not mean we should seek out evil or suffering, but rather understand that these aspects are part of the natural cycle of life. What many fail to realize is that we have the power to transmute the polarities in our lives. When we face challenges or negative situations, we can change our perspective and thus transform these experiences into opportunities for learning and growth. The principle of polarity gives us the key to this transmutation. A clear example of this is how we deal with our emotions. Feelings of sadness or anger can be transmuted into compassion and forgiveness. What initially seems negative can be transformed into something positive if we know how to work with polarities. This requires awareness and practice, but it is one of the secrets to living a more balanced life. By applying the principle of polarity, we begin to realize that we do not need to be at the mercy of the opposing forces in our lives. We can learn to navigate through them, balancing the extremes and finding a point of harmony. This is the path to true inner peace, where opposites cease to be a conflict and become a cosmic dance of balance. The principle of cause and effect is one of the most well-known universal laws, but its depth is often overlooked. It states that everything we do generates a consequence. A cause always has a corresponding effect. This principle is impersonal and immutable. It doesn't matter if we believe in it or not. It is always in action. In our daily lives, the principle of cause and effect manifests constantly. Every decision we make, every word we speak, and even the thoughts we harbor create waves in the universe that eventually return to us. These waves can be positive or negative, depending on the nature of our actions. What many don't realize is that the time between cause and effect is not always immediate. Sometimes, we may not see the results of our actions right away, leading us to think there are no consequences. However, the universe always finds a way to restore balance. This time interval often deceives us, making us believe that our actions have no impact. An example of this is how we treat the people in our lives. We can plant seeds of kindness, patience, and love, but we may not always see the fruits of these actions immediately. Likewise, acts of selfishness or disrespect may seem to have no immediate consequences, but eventually, these energies return to us in some form. A deep understanding of this principle teaches us to be more responsible for our choices. Knowing that everything we do returns to us, we can be more careful and conscious in our interactions and decisions. This also allows us to have more patience, as we understand that what we plant today may take time to bloom. Cause and effect reminds us that we are the creators of our own reality. Every choice we make shapes the future we live in. When we become conscious of this process, we can use this knowledge to manifest a life more aligned with our higher desires, understanding that what we give to the world always comes back to us. Among the 7 Hermetic principles, there is one that is often forgotten or ignored: the 8th principle, also known as the generative principle. This principle, often called the lost principle, is the key to understanding how we truly create our reality. And what this principle reveals is that everything begins with care. What does care mean in this context? Care is where we direct our attention, energy, and intention. What we focus on expands. If we care about something, we nourish it with our energy. If we ignore it, we allow it to fade or die. This principle is, in essence, about where we choose to invest our forces. Care is the creative energy that drives all other laws of the universe. Without care, there is no creation. What we choose to cultivate in our lives, whether in thoughts, actions, or emotions, depends on what we are nurturing with our attention. This is true both on a personal and collective level. What society as a whole chooses to value and care about shapes the reality we live in. Unfortunately, care is often misdirected. Many people, consciously or unconsciously, focus on distractions, fear, or ignorance. When this happens, we are essentially cultivating these energies in our lives. The generative principle calls us to be mindful of where we place our attention. What are we nurturing? What are we allowing to grow? By understanding the generative principle, we realize that we are responsible for what we create in our lives. If we want change, we must first change what we are cultivating. If we desire more love, we must place our care in practices that promote love. If we want abundance, we must nurture thoughts and actions that reflect that abundance. Care is the heart of all creation. It is the principle that drives and sustains everything that exists. When we become aware of this principle, we realize that we have far more control over our lives than we ever imagined. It all starts with what we choose to value and nurture. What are you caring for today? What kind of reality are you creating with your intentions and actions? Consciousness is a mystery that has challenged science and spirituality for centuries. What exactly is consciousness? How does it manifest? Although we cannot see or touch consciousness, it is present in every aspect of our lives. It is what allows us to perceive, feel, think, and exist. Without consciousness, there would be no perception of the world around us. Many believe that consciousness is located in the brain, but this view is limited. The brain is actually a receiver of consciousness, not its origin. Consciousness manifests on many levels, including the physical, mental, and spiritual. The heart, for example, also plays a crucial role in our conscious experience. The heart's electromagnetic field is much stronger than the brain's, suggesting it has an important spiritual function. Consciousness is not confined to the physical body. It extends beyond it, connecting to the energetic field of the universe. Every human being has an energy field around them, known as an aura, which interacts with the environment and with other consciousnesses. When we learn to expand and elevate our consciousness, we can begin to perceive these subtle connections. However, most people live with limited consciousness, focused only on the material aspects of life. They do not realize that there is a greater spiritual dimension that can be accessed. True spiritual wisdom comes from expanding consciousness beyond the ego and matter. This allows us to see the world from a broader perspective and understand our role in the cosmos. Spiritual practice, whether through meditation, prayer, or other forms of self-knowledge, is a way to expand our consciousness. When we connect with higher consciousness, we begin to access levels of understanding that are beyond what the physical world can offer. This allows us to live more in alignment with universal laws. Consciousness is both the starting point and the destination of the spiritual journey. The more we expand our perception, the closer we get to universal truth. And the more conscious we become, the more we can use this understanding to live a full and balanced life. Consciousness is the key to understanding our existence and our connection to the whole. We, as human beings, are composed of 3 fundamental parts: mind, body, and spirit. These 3 dimensions are interconnected and constantly influence one another. To live a balanced and full life, it is essential to understand how these 3 aspects operate together and how we can harmonize them to achieve a state of holistic well-being. The mind is the center of our thoughts and perceptions. Everything we think, feel, and believe begins in the mind. It is the tool we use to process information, make decisions, and create our reality. However, the mind can be both our ally and our enemy. When we do not care for it, it can become filled with negative thoughts, fears, and limiting beliefs that affect our physical and spiritual health. The body, in turn, is the vehicle we use to experience the material world. It is a physical extension of our mind and spirit. Our thoughts and emotions directly affect our physical health, either positively or negatively. Therefore, taking care of the body is not just a matter of exercise and healthy eating, but also of maintaining a balanced mind. The spirit is the highest dimension of our existence. It is the essence of who we truly are, beyond the body and mind. When we are disconnected from the spirit, we feel an emptiness, a sense that something is missing. Spiritual connection gives us purpose, direction, and a sense of fulfillment. The spirit guides us on our journey of self-discovery and helps us find balance between mind and body. To live a truly full life, it is necessary to harmonize these three aspects. When the mind is at peace, the body heals, and the spirit flourishes. Practices such as meditation, yoga, and prayer are effective ways to integrate mind, body, and spirit. They help us align our thoughts, emotions, and actions with our spiritual purpose. Imbalance in any of these areas can cause discomfort and suffering. A mind overwhelmed by stress affects the health of the body, while a neglected body can hinder access to the spirit. Likewise, spiritual disconnection can lead to mental confusion and physical illness. Balance is the key to inner harmony. True peace and fulfillment come from the integration of these three levels of existence. When we live in an integrated way, we become complete beings, in harmony with the universe. This is the ultimate goal of many spiritual traditions, to achieve the union of mind, body, and spirit, and thus live a life of purpose and fulfillment. From the moment we are born, we are programmed by society and the environment around us. This programming begins in childhood, when we learn from our parents, teachers, and the culture around us. What many people do not realize is that this programming deeply affects the way we think, feel, and act, often without our conscious awareness. Cultural programming can be seen as an operating system running in the background. It defines what we believe to be right or wrong, what we consider possible or impossible. In many cases, this programming limits us, creating mental and emotional barriers that prevent our growth. Limiting beliefs like, "I am not capable," or "this is not for me," are examples of how this programming can harm us. However, the good news is that, like any operating system, the mind can be reprogrammed. When we become aware of the limiting beliefs we carry, we can begin to replace them with more empowering thoughts. This requires a conscious effort, but it is possible to change the way we think and feel. One of the most effective ways to reprogram the mind is through self-observation and conscious practice. By paying attention to our thoughts and behavior patterns, we can identify what is limiting us. From there, we can begin to implement new thought patterns that are more aligned with our goals and dreams. Mental programming is also closely linked to the environment we live in. If we are surrounded by negative people and information, it is much more difficult to change our mental patterns. Therefore, it is important to carefully choose the influences we allow into our lives. Books, films, music, and even the people we spend time with have a direct impact on our mental programming. Reprogramming the mind is not a process that happens overnight. It requires patience, persistence, and above all, self-awareness. But the results can be transformative. When we start reprogramming our thoughts and beliefs, we begin to see significant changes in our lives. The mind, like the body, is malleable and can be trained to work in our favor. The trivium is an ancient learning system used by the Greeks and Romans that teaches how to process information and create a reality more aligned with true knowledge. It consists of 3 stages: grammar, knowledge; logic, understanding; and rhetoric, wisdom. These 3 stages form the foundation of how we can create a more conscious life aligned with universal laws. The first stage of the trivium, grammar, is where we acquire knowledge. This involves collecting information and data about the world around us. However, grammar is not just about accumulating facts. It is about learning to discern between what is true and what is an illusion. We live in a world where misinformation is everywhere, and grammar teaches us to question sources of information. The second stage is logic, which involves processing this information. Here we learn to identify patterns and connections, to separate what is useful from what is irrelevant. Logic is the heart of the trivium, as it is where we transform raw knowledge into understanding. Without logic, knowledge remains disconnected and without purpose. The third stage is rhetoric, which is the application of knowledge and understanding. This is where true wisdom manifests. Rhetoric is not just about speaking or teaching, but about living what has been learned. When we put into practice what we know and understand, we begin to see real changes in our lives. Wisdom is, ultimately, conscious action aligned with truth. The trivium is a powerful tool for anyone who wants to live more consciously and intentionally. It teaches us to approach life logically and systematically, ensuring that our choices are based on true and well-processed information. It is a method that helps us navigate the chaos of modern life and make more informed decisions. When we apply the trivium in our lives, we begin to see an alignment between what we think, feel, and do. This creates a sense of internal and external coherence, where our actions are in harmony with our values and principles. This is the true creation of reality, not just wishing for something, but acting in accordance with what we desire, based on knowledge and understanding. The trivium may seem like a simple concept, but its practical application is profound. It is the foundation for developing true wisdom, which goes beyond theoretical knowledge and manifests in practice. When we use the trivium in our lives, we become masters of our own reality, creating a future aligned with our highest intentions. We have explored the depths of esoteric knowledge, universal laws, and the hermetic principles that govern reality. Understanding and applying these laws can transform your life, freeing you from ignorance and allowing you to co-create reality consciously. But remember, knowledge alone is not enough. True wisdom comes from action.